Hello student, welcome back to our MSc First Physics semester 2nd course, that is Atoms and Molecules, and our subject code is PSCT 1 to 2 and this is our 5th lecture. And in this course we are studying our 4th module, that is resonance spectroscopy, and in that module we have covered the one type of the resonance spectroscopy, that is ESR resonance or ESR spectroscopy, or we call it as electron spin resonance spectroscopy. All topics which comes under ESR spectroscopy, all those topics we have covered in our previous lecture. Now in this lecture we have to start with the new resonance spectroscopy, that is the second type of the resonance spectroscopy, and which is the NMR or nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. So let's start with the nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. First of all, what is NMR? That is what is NMR spectroscopy? NMR spectroscopy is abbreviated as nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. That means in short, for the nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy we call it as NMR. Nuclear magnetic resonance, that is NMR spectroscopy, is the study of molecules by recording the interaction of radio frequency, that is RF, electromagnetic radiations with the nuclei of molecules placed in a strong magnetic field. That is, this is the definition of the NMR spectroscopy. But what does it mean? NMR spectroscopy is the spectroscopy which deals or which record the interaction of radio frequency. In ESR we consider only microwave frequency, but in NMR there is a radio frequency, electromagnetic radiation. These electromagnetic radiation interact with the nuclei of the molecules in a presence of external strong magnetic field. Like in ESR, we have seen ESR when we apply the external strong magnetic field to the electron spin, then there is an interaction between the the electron spin and the microwave radiation. But here in NMR there is an interaction between the radio frequency electromagnetic radiation and nuclei of molecules, and which all those things happen in presence of strong magnetic field. So the ESR and NMR phenomena are same, but there are little bit changes. The ESR is related to the electron spin, but in NMR the phenomena is related to the nuclei of the molecules or sample. The NMR spectroscopy determines the physical and chemical properties of the atoms or molecules. That means the very important application of the NMR spectroscopy, that is it is mostly used for the determination of the physical and chemical properties of the atoms and molecules or samples. The phenomena of nuclear magnetic resonance, that is NMR, was first observed by F. Bloch in 1946. That means the scientist, that is F. Bloch, observed the NMR phenomena, or he studied the NMR spectroscopy, and he observed that it deals with the transition between energy levels that arise because of different orientation of magnetic moment of nuclei placed in an external magnetic field. That means there is a transition, but in between what? Between the energy levels that arises because of different orientation of magnetic moment. Suppose we have a sample and we place that sample in a presence of strong external magnetic field. Then there is a transition between two energy levels of, and this transition arises, there is a orientation of magnetic moments in a different direction, and hence there is a change in the magnetic moment spin, or there is a change in the nuclei spin, and there is a transition due to that, and These transitions are studied by means of resonance method, hence the name nuclear magnetic resonance. Why this spectroscopy we called as a nuclear magnetic resonance? Because here we study about the nuclei, that is a magnetic moment of the nuclei, and what happen if we place the sample in a presence of external magnetic field, how they react with the radio frequency. So all those happens at a particular condition, and this condition is known as a resonance condition. So for this spectroscopy we call it as a nuclear magnetic resonance. Now the magnetic properties of the nuclei, that is what are the magnetic properties of the nuclei. First we have to study the magnetic property of the nuclei, then we will get the idea about the resonance, how the resonance happens in a NMR. So let's start. One of the most important properties of a nucleus, it is its spin, that is a capital I, or intrinsic spin angular momentum, that is I into h upon 2 pi. This gives rise to a magnetic moment to the nucleus. We know that, as already we mentioned, if we have atom, in atom at the center there is a nucleus part, and around that there is a electron, that is the electron revolves around the nucleus in a different orbit, but the nuclei consist of proton and neutron. Neutron is a neutral, but proton has a charge, that is a positively charged particle, and due to the charged particle it has a magnetic moment, and it also has a spin, that is the proton has a intrinsic spin, and due to intrinsic spin, and which is denoted by capital I, due to this intrinsic spin we have the intrinsic spin angular momentum, and which is a integral multiple of I, that is which is a integral multiple of h cut or h upon 2 pi, and this gives rise to a magnetic moment to the nucleus. Because of the nuclear spin, the nucleus have magnetic moment. The following rules are useful in determining the value of nuclear spin I. That means for the different nuclei, the value of I, that is the nuclear spin, is different for a different nuclei, but there are certain rules from that we can determine the nuclear spin. So first rule is the, if mass number A is odd and atomic number Z is even or odd, then I is a half integer. First of all, what is a mass number? We know that the mass number is denoted by capital letter A, and which is the addition of number of protons and number of neutrons in that particular atom. So this is the mass number, and if we have that mass number is a odd and atomic number Z, that is a number of electrons present in that particular atom or in that element, and which is denoted by, that is the number of electrons in that atom is equal to the atomic number Z. So if we have mass number odd and atomic number Z is even or odd, that means it doesn't matter when either the atomic number is even or odd, but if A is odd, then the nuclear spin is integer, that like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Example of that is the hydrogen atom. We know that in hydrogen there is a single electron, and for the hydrogen atom the Z is equal to 1, that is atomic number is 1 for the hydrogen atom, that is Z is odd, but the mass number A in the hydrogen atom is 1, that is there is only one proton in the hydrogen atom. So the hydrogen atom is the example of this rule or satisfy this rule. Now the second rule is the, if A and Z both are even, then I is 0. That means if in an element or in an atom the mass number as well as the atomic number Z both are even, then the spin is the, or nuclear spin is 0. For examples, helium, carbon. If we consider in case of helium, in helium the atomic number is 2, that is the number of electrons are 2, therefore the protons are also 2, and the number of neutrons are again 2. So the total mass number is the, that is a capital A is equal to the addition of the number of protons plus number of protons and number of neutrons. Here in case of helium there are 2 protons and 2 neutrons. So total addition of these two quantities we will get 4, and this is the mass number. So in this case we have A is 4 and Z is also 2. So both are all even. So the spin, that is a nuclear spin, is a 0 in this case. Now the third rule is the if A is even and Z is odd, I is a integer. So here half integer means half, 3 by 2, 5 by 2, 7 by 2. But here integer means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to so on. Here in this case A is even and Z is odd. The example of this type is deuterium. We know that deuterium is the one of the isotope of the hydrogen, and in this case the number of electrons is 1, that is atomic number Z is 1, that is which is odd, and the mass number A is even, that is there is a 1 proton and 1 neutron. So the mass number is 2 and which is even. So deuterium is an example of this rule. So in this way we can determine the value of nuclear spin for the different elements or different atoms. The projection of spin vector I on any direction can have the values, that is mi is equal to minus I plus 1 up to so on, I minus 2, I minus 1 and I. So if we have the spin vector, then there is a projection of the spin vector on any direction, but for that projection we have different values, that is we denote it as a mi, that is a nuclear spin magnetic quantum number, which is a mi and which takes values from minus I to plus I. So this is the projection of the spin vector in any direction. These are 2I plus 1 in a number and all are degenerate in absence of an external magnetic field. In a magnetic field it splits up into 2I plus 1 states. That means if we apply external magnetic field, then there is a splitting of the nuclear spin vector or nuclear spin, and the splitting takes values, that is 2I plus 1, that is the splitted states are 2I plus 1, and after application of the magnetic field there is a splitting, but when there is no magnetic field then all the energy levels are degenerate, that means they have same values, and these all are the 2I plus 1 in number. That means after splitting 2I plus 1 in number, but before splitting these all are the different values, that is only single I value and which is a degenerate value, but we apply the external magnetic field, then there is a splitting and which are in a 2I plus 1 number. The magnetic dipole moment mu I associated with the spin angular momentum is given by, we know that the relationship between the magnetic dipole moment mu I and spin angular momentum, this is the standard relation. So which is given by mu is equal to gamma times I h cut, where mu is the magnetic dipole moment corresponding to the nucleus and I is the nuclear spin and h cut is the constant, that is h upon 2 pi, where h is the Planck constant, and gamma is a scalar called the gyromagnetic ratio, and it may take positive or negative value, where gamma is the gyromagnetic ratio and which has a value, that is Gn into beta n divided by h cut. This is the value of gamma, which is the gyromagnetic ratio, or it may take values positive or negative. So this is the corresponding magnetic dipole moment associated with the nuclear magnetic spin angular momentum. Now an ultimate expression for the magnetic moment is mu is equal to Gn into beta n by h cut into I h cut. That means in this case we substitute the value of gamma, that is the value of gyromagnetic ratio, which is the Gn beta n divided by h cut. So here the h cut get cancelled with each other and we left with this only this expression, that is this expression mu is equal to Gn beta n into I. So this is the value of magnetic dipole moment associated with the spin angular momentum, that is this quantity, and we will use this equation in a interaction energy equation. So this is the important equation. Now after that, where Gn is the nuclear G factor and is a small dimensionless algebraic number that makes or that takes different values for different nuclei. That means where in this expression Gn is the nuclear G factor and it may be different for different nuclei, and which is a dimensionless quantity, and I is the nuclear spin, beta n is the nuclear magneton, and which is defined by beta n is equal to E h cut divided by twice mp. So this is the value of the nuclear magneton, that is in this case this is the beta n, and the value of beta n is this, where E is the charge on the proton and mp is the mass of the proton, h cut is the constant, that is h upon 2 pi, and h is nothing but the Planck constant. So after substituting all those values, that is the charge on proton, Planck constant, mass of proton, after substituting all those values, we will get the value this, that is 5.051 into 10 to the power minus 27 joule per Tesla. So this is the value of nuclear magneton, like a Bohr magneton in a ESR spectroscopy. In ESR spectroscopy, we deal with the electron spin, but in NMR spectroscopy, we deal with the nuclear spin. So here is the nuclear magneton. Now, what is the resonance condition in a NMR spectroscopy? As already we seen about the ESR spectroscopy. Now for the NMR spectroscopy, so resonance condition, the interaction between the external magnetic field and the nuclear magnetic moment is given as follows, that is E is equal to minus mu I dot with H0. So this is the dot product which is in the vector form. So in NMR we place the sample in the presence of external magnetic field, and here is the external magnetic field is the H0, and this external magnetic field, in presence of this external magnetic field, there is an interaction between the radio frequency with the nuclear spin, and we get the interaction energy. That means this energy, that is E is equal to minus mu I dot with H0, and this is the dot product in the vector form. We can write this in the magnitude form, like E is equal to minus mu I H0 cos theta, where theta is the angle between dipole and magnetic field, that is a magnetic dipole moment and the external magnetic field, that is which is in the form of magnitude form, and here mu I is the again magnetic moment associated with the nucleus, H0 is the external magnetic field, and theta is the angle between magnetic dipole moment and external magnetic field. So this is the interaction energy. Now when we place the sample in a presence of external strong magnetic field, then there is an interaction between the magnetic dipole moment of the nuclei or nuclear magnetic dipole moment, so which is either aligned along the direction of the magnetic field or opposite to that. So there are two possibilities, and according to that there are two orientation for a proton with a nuclear spin half. We know that for a single proton the spin is a half, and in presence of external magnetic field we get two possibilities. This indicates the quantum number of magnetic spin, that is Mi. For Mi, which is equal to plus minus half, energy takes values, that is a minus half Gn beta n into H0 and plus half Gn beta n H0, which is shown in the figure. As already mentioned, if we place the molecular sample in the presence of external magnetic field, then there is an interaction between the external magnetic field and nuclear magnetic moment. But in a nuclear case we have a proton, and proton has a spin half, so there is a two possibility, that is the spin alignment along the direction of the field or opposite to that of. So according to that we get the different two values of the spin, that is a plus half or minus half, and which is indicated by quantum number of magnetic spin, that is mi, which is equal to plus minus half. And according to that we get the two energy values for these two different states. For the first state, that is mi is equal to half and mi is equal to minus half. So here we get these two energy state. But how we get these two energy state? Here we have the energy equation, right? If the spin is a parallel to the magnetic field, then the theta angle is a 0, and if it is opposite to the magnetic field, then theta is a 180 degree, and we know that cos 0 is a 1 and cos 180 is nothing but the minus 1. So after substituting the value of cos theta for the anti-parallel direction or parallel direction, we get the values of the energies, that is two energies, that is for mi is equal to plus half and mi is equal to minus half. So here we put the value of mu I from this equation, that is from this equation, that is Gn, beta n and I. But here in this case we have the values, two values of I, that is I is equal to either plus minus half, that is I which is equal to plus minus half. So first we put I is equal to half here, and after that we can put I is equal to minus half. So here we get the two values of mu. So these two values we can put here, that is for two different energy levels, that is this energy level and this energy level. So here we get these two energy levels, and which is shown in the following figure, that is this figure. So here we get the mi is equal to minus half, mi is equal to plus half, and for these two values we have these two energies. The theory behind NMR comes from the spin of the nucleus and it generates a magnetic field. We know that actually what happened in a NMR, as up to this we have studied actually what happened in a NMR. In NMR the magnetic moment is due to its spin, that is a nuclear spin, and it generates a magnetic field. Without an external applied magnetic field, the nuclear spins are random in a direction. We know that in a presence of external field, there is an alignment of the nuclear spin, but in absence of external magnetic field, the nuclear magnetic moments or nuclear spin are oriented in any direction. That means they are random, which is shown in this figure, that is in a absence of external magnetic field, that is no external magnetic field, the nuclear spins are oriented in a different direction like this. So the orientation are different, so there is a total spin is a 0, and here we don't have any magnetic moment. But if we place the sample or molecules in external magnetic field, then there is an alignment of nuclei either with the magnetic field or against to the external magnetic field. So this is the alignment of the nuclei along the direction of the magnetic field, but sometimes some nuclei are aligned opposite to the direction of the magnetic field like this. So there is a two possibilities, that is along the direction of the field like this and opposite to the direction of field, that means this is the direction of the field along this black arrow. So there are two possibilities. If an external magnetic field is applied, an energy transfer, that is a delta E, is possible between ground state to the excited state. That means in this figure we have these two states, that is this is the upper energy level and this is the lower energy level, that is a ground state and excited state. Suppose we place sample or atoms in an external magnetic field, then there is a transfer of energy from the ground state level to the upper state energy level in a presence of radio frequency energy, and after that when the spin returns to its ground state level, the absorbed radio frequency energy is emitted at the same frequency level. That means when there is a transition from lower level to upper level, then there is absorption of energy from the radio wave electromagnetic radiation, and after that there is again de-excitation, and again there is a emission of the photon, and this emitted photon have energy is equal to the absorbed photon. So here is a resonance condition in the NMR. That means in a presence of external magnetic field, there is a splitting of the energy levels, that is into the two states, that is for Mi is equal to minus half and for Mi is equal to plus half, and we get the corresponding these two energy. And when this absorption happens, when and when the incident radiation photon has energy is equal to the difference between these two energy levels. That means this difference Gn beta n h0. So when the photon has energy is equal to this energy difference, then and then this transition takes place, and again there is a de-excitation. So this is the resonance condition in the NMR. Now the emitted radio frequency signal that give the NMR spectrum of the concerned nucleus. That means there is emission of the energy, and this emission of these signals gives rise to us the NMR spectrum. That means the spectra of particular sample, and from that spectra we can study the different physical as well as the chemical property of that species or of that sample. So this is the nuclear magnetic resonance transitions. The nuclear magnetic resonance transitions occurs between the two energy levels. The transition between the two energy levels constitutes the resonance condition. As already we mentioned, there is a resonance condition when there is a transition between the two energy states, and all those happens in a presence of radio frequency photon or radio frequency electromagnetic radiation, and they constitute the, all those things constitute the resonance condition, and this resonance condition is given by delta E is equal to h nu, which is equal to plus half Gn beta n into h0 minus of half Gn beta n h0. So there is a difference between the two energy levels, and this difference is given by, that is this level minus this level, and after solving these, that is a minus plus becomes plus, and these two quantities gets add up with each other, and we left with this only, that is we get this, that is a delta E is equal to h nu, which is equal to Gn beta n h0, and this is the resonance condition in a NMR. That is, it's called the resonance condition for NMR. The emitted radio frequency is directly proportional to the strength of the applied field. Here we apply strong external static magnetic field, right, and which is denoted by h0, and we have the frequency here. That means the NMR spectra falls in the radio frequency region. So the frequency of this radio waves, which is denoted by here nu, and this frequency is directly proportional to the applied strong magnetic field. So this is the resonance condition for the NMR spectroscopy. Now some basic properties about the NMR spectroscopy, like typical external magnetic fields used in NMR experiment are in the range 1 Tesla to 5 Tesla. In NMR spectroscopy, we provide external magnetic field with the help of electromagnets, and electromagnet provides static strong magnetic field, and which is in the order of 1 Tesla to 5 Tesla. The frequencies falls in the radio frequency region of the electromagnetic spectrum, and the sources used to induce the transitions are different from those used in the other regions of the spectroscopy. That means in the particular region of the electromagnetic spectra, that is in the radio frequency regions, we observe the NMR spectra, but in the other regions of the electromagnetic spectra we have the another regions of the spectroscopy, like in infrared region we have the infrared spectroscopy, in a microwave region we have the microwave spectroscopy, like that is a ESR. In UV visible region we get the UV visible spectroscopy. So like that, in a different regions of the electromagnetic spectra we get the different spectroscopy, but when the frequency falls in the radio frequency range, then we get the NMR spectroscopy, that is a nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. The resonance condition is achieved by applying a radio frequency field oscillating at the Larmor frequency perpendicular to the external magnetic field. Larmor frequency means this frequency, that is this frequency. This is also called as a Larmor frequency, and this is an oscillating frequency and which oscillate perpendicular to the external magnetic field, and then we get the resonance condition, that is a resonance condition for the NMR, and this achieved by applying the radio frequency in NMR. This oscillating field is produced by applying a oscillating voltage to the coil whose axis is perpendicular to the external static field. That means in a NMR we provide a oscillating field, and this oscillating field is achieved by providing a oscillating voltage to the coils, that is the magnets, and the axis of those coils is perpendicular to the external magnetic field. So this is the condition for the NMR, or for the oscillating field and the axis of the coil which generate the magnetic field. Proton is one of the most important nuclei, having a spin half, and it is a component in almost all organic molecules. In any species or in any molecule or any component or compound, the proton is a common. That is a proton which has a spin which is equal to half and which is common in most of the organic materials also. So for the NMR, we call it as also the NMR of proton nucleus is often called proton magnetic resonance. That means in most of the species the proton is a common component. So the NMR of proton nucleus is also called as a proton magnetic resonance, or in short we call it as a PMR. Another nucleus which is present in all organic compounds is a carbon. That means if we consider all the organic compounds, the main element is the carbon, that is which is present in all organic compounds, as C12, that is a carbon 12 has no magnetic moment, will not show any NMR spectrum. However, the carbon 13 has magnetic moment and shows resonance. How we decide which element shows the NMR spectra? As already we mentioned, we have some basic rules for the nuclear spin, that is a capital I. That is as already we seen how we calculate the nuclear spin capital I using the different three rules. That means these three rules, and from that we can decide the nuclei or the atom or the molecules or the element which have the magnetic moment or may not have the magnetic moment. In case of the carbon is an example of this rule, that is a second rule. Here A and Z both are even, that is for carbon 12, for carbon the atomic number is a 6, so the number of protons, number of electrons is a 6, that is the atomic number is a 6, so Z is a even, and A is nothing but the addition of number of protons and neutrons, and here number of protons is a 6 and number of neutrons is also 6 in a carbon 12, so both are even, so the nuclear spin is a 0, and when we have the nuclear spin is a 0, then there is no NMR spectra for that component or for that molecule or for that sample. So the NMR, for the NMR spectrum, the condition is that the nuclear magnetic spin is a non-zero, then we get the NMR spectrum. So for the carbon 12 there is a no magnetic moment, so will not show any NMR spectrum. But if we consider the carbon 13, that is the isotope of the carbon, and in this case the mass number is a odd, that is which is a 13, and the atomic number which is a 6, that is the number of electrons in the carbon is a 6, so the mass number is a odd and atomic mass number is a even. So this rule, that is this rule. Here mass number is a odd, but atomic number is a even or odd, doesn't matter. So this comes under this rule. So here we get the nuclear magnetic moment or resultant nuclear magnetic moment. So the carbon 13 shows the NMR spectra, that means it has a magnetic moment and therefore it shows the resonance and it gives the NMR spectrum. So this is all about the nuclear magnetic resonance. That means we have studied up to this, that is the basic principle of the NMR spectroscopy, how we get the resonance in the NMR spectroscopy and what is the resonance condition and how we can decide which nuclei has a magnetic moment and which not have, and according to that we get the NMR spectrum. So this is all about the NMR spectroscopy or some basic part of the NMR spectroscopy. Now in our upcoming videos we will discuss about the how we get the spectra, that means NMR spectra using NMR spectrometer, as already we studied about the spectra of the ESR. That means in ESR also we have studied the ESR spectrometer. That means with the help of ESR spectrometer we get the spectra of the ESR and from that we can study the different properties of that particular sample. Similarly in NMR spectroscopy we have the NMR spectrometer and which gives us a spectra, and from that spectra we can study the different physical as well as the chemical property of that sample. So in our next video we will continue with the NMR spectrometer.